It don't work.
Island, do you have a child?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so I guess for me personally, it's cool. Like I respect your opinion, but when you have your child, I promise you, your perspective will change.
No, actually, I believe in being married before having a child. So my perspective still stands. Like,
yeah, because she hasn't had the child.
You don't have to have a child to have a perspective on maybe closing your damn legs before you get married. No. Why do I?
You know, we should definitely not be talking like that unless you're fucking virgin on this stage with like. For real.
Oh gosh, Kayla.
For real. Keep it fucking real. Stop trying to act like you ain't laid down with a nigga that's not your husband on this
Kayla, but
I apologize, everybody. That's the wrong clip. So let me find the clip that I wanted to play. Let's see. Hold on a second. Just give me.
Heart rate's 120, BP's 140.
Just give me a second. We're gonna.
Hectic for.
This the whole notion of we build it while we're building it while we're flying. All right. So that was not it. Let's see. Here we go. All right, guys. Here we go.
What the core is and what has not changed is how we deal with relationships and really what makes relationships work. What men want and what women want hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. We quote unquote say the modern woman because the modern woman is adapting to what we're doing now instead of realizing what has always worked and what will continue to work. A woman's nature, what a woman wants, that's not going to change. Protector, provider. What a man always wants is a woman that is submissive to him, is feminine, and is, willing to help him in whatever he needs to in the house. That's not going to change. And until we realize we live in a modern society, yes, we have accessibility. That's why I think a lot of us are single, because we're not reverting back to what we knew what worked. We're trying to figure out how to make things work for what we're doing now. And the numbers prove that it just doesn't.
No. So I don't agree. I don't agree with that, Courtney. I really don't. And
well, tell me why you don't.
I don't agree because you're saying, okay, here's the new norm. This is what we're doing. This is what we used to do. Like, I get it. But at the end of the day, it's more of a stance of here we are, like right now. Like, there are some things that I'm not going to conform to. There are certain things that a man isn't going to conform to. Like, it's just nature. It's just what it is. It's just what it is right now. And I understand.
That's why we're failing. No, we're not. We're trying to adapt to a new norm, but the new norm doesn't equivocate to being normal.
Yeah,
lifestyles that we are living, things that we're doing, the bodies that we're having, that could be the new norm, but it's not normal. That's not what is going to sustain a relationship.
But you also don't have to have a lot of bodies either. Like, you can be submissive, but there's still something that they need.
But if we're in the new norm,
be everything that person needs, and then they still want something.
What is it?
Hold on. Because when we talk about the new norm and how women are being the new norm, how we look, how we dress, how we present ourselves, how we treat men, how we treat ourselves. The new norm is us showing a lot more, acting wilding out a lot more, as if that's okay. That new norm does not work in sustaining a relationship. And you don't have to take the numbers prove it. We're not getting better. Why not? Because we're conforming to shit that we shouldn't be conforming to. Just because it's new doesn't mean we need to be trying it out and doing it. Some of this stuff we need to be rejected. So the new norm is not necessarily something that should be celebrated. The new norm is looking at us like, darn, our society is going a little off the rails. Let's scale it back a little bit.
What
You know,
new
one of the
normal?
things
I
that
thought we
came
just had
out,
a whole
King,
conversation.
Hold on, I think Kayla, then we'll come to you.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. I just wanted to know what new norm, because I thought we just had a whole conversation about how people been doing this, and that nothing that's happening is new.
Well, I'll explain it to you. So what I stated was the new norm is the accessibility. Remember what I talked about? Mr. Charlie used to go down the street, but now he has accessibility.
Go back to what I said at the beginning about everything.
I'll explain it to you.
About technology being the only thing that's different. That's literally what I said.
Well, no, well, you can talk about technology. You can also talk about our standards in a society. You can talk about how we don't reverence family nor marriage anymore. You can talk about the age that we think is appropriate to act like an adult. So we've changed our complete society on what it once was to change to modern times, which means we don't have to mature like we used to in the 20s. Now we're thinking 30, 40, 50 is when we become a woman. And now we want to settle down. That's the new norm. It don't work.
No, we want to settle down at our age, not right now.
You tell me what was the average age that a woman married 20 years ago till now?
I mean, it was way younger. I mean, you had our grandparents that were getting, or at least having kids at like 14, 15, 16, 17, but all of them weren't married. They eventually did get married, but they were having children and then got married.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you actually sat down and talked with missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ?
So you're proving my point. The new norm is waiting later in life.
No, we're not waiting later in life. What we're doing is our men aren't finding us back then. And one thing that we're not willing to do is have a child with a man and just marry them. That's what I'm not doing.
Right.
So
And even that again, I mean, you're proving my point.
Yeah.
The norm was shotgun weddings. Pregnant, you marry her. Now the new norm is I'm gonna celebrate my baby showers and everything, and to hell with the wedding.
Wait. Y'all completely missed it. Hold on. Y'all completely missed it. It just went over your head. Can you say that last thing you just said one more time, Siobhan?
Shit, I forgot. Sorry.
You said about I'm not, just because I have his kid don't mean I'm gonna marry him or something like that.
Just because I have his kid, I'm not gonna marry him. That's right.
But wait, that's
think
going back to what Courtney said. You're waiting later to get married.
I was about
That's
to
exactly
say,
what Courtney said, though.
The craziest thing.
The people that do that,
That's not what he about to say. That's not what he about to say.
But that's
they're staying for the children. I'm not doing it.
That's
but
not
that's
what he
not
about to
Courtney's
say either.
point. Wait,
You're making my point.
you're making her. Wait, hold on, Ali. Can we?
I still don't understand your point, Courtney.
Wait,
I really-
Siobhan, you basically said you're not going to settle, so you're going to wait longer. She basically said women are waiting longer to get married. And
I
you're
said-
waiting. Go ahead.
I said that I'm not going to marry someone that I had a baby with just because it's not right.
But that's the society that we live in, and what I'm saying is that's incorrect. You're willing to open your legs, let a man skeet in you, have his whole child, replicate his DNA, but he's not worth marrying.
But some people don't know that they're not worth it until afterwards. That's what I'm.
We were warned.
Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's chop it up, man. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, may I interject? It's about time for communal reconnect. Power of the we in some type of context. Working on the us so we can hit up what's next. It's that grown brother, grown sister type of flex. More like soul check, not just collecting checks. Fact, not feelings is what we got on deck. Take the high road, so this here is high tech. Getting to the real, very thing that we hitting on. Pull up or sit down, tell me what you sipping on. Reclaiming kinghood, that is what we getting on. Real headlines is what we spitting on. So, hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sex talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Have a conversation. Have a conversation.
All right, y'all. We are back. We are back. We are back. We are the Real Bravado Network, and this is Have the Conversation. All right, strap in. Let's get to work. Before we get started, do me a huge favor. Go to Real Bravado Network on YouTube. Type in Real Bravado, hit the subscribe, the like button. This is the biggest way that you can help support the streaming platform. All right, let's get down to business. Miss Fanny.
What's up?
So, the young lady at the end.
Oh my.
She said, I do not have to marry him just because I had a baby with him.
Yes, right. And I've heard, and when I was coming, that comment really struck me. Usually, a lot of young ladies that I talk to, they're trying to get the father of their child to marry them after they've had the child. Usually, that's what I hear. But now I hear her saying, "Oh, I'm not going to marry him just because I had a baby by him." And also, normally we hear that from men, don't we? Oh, just because she had my baby, I don't have to marry her, or they will try to talk the woman into having the child, and they'll say things like, well, we'll get married after you have the child, things like that. So yeah, what is going on? What is going on?
Yeah, I don't.
I was shocked when she said that. I just
Well,
I said,
I'm
wow.
not totally shocked because that's the mindset of what we call we affectionately term the modern woman. The fact that we don't that our ladies do not believe that they have to marry a guy just because they have a kid, but yet and still, I don't think I played it all the way to the end. But she asks her, hold on a second.
Well, can I say one more thing, TJ?
Yeah.
So what really struck me is what I'm having trouble understanding is, where did she get the idea? Who told her that just her alone raising children is enough?
Yeah,
That's
that's a fair
I
question.
babysit kids, and I'm looking for someone to help me myself. So I mean, you're gonna take on the job of mommy without the father there to help you out.
Yeah, hold on a second. I want to play what Kayla. I didn't play it all the way to the end. So I'm gonna play the last little bit of what Kayla, not Kayla, Miss Courtney. She was on there cooking today. She was on there cooking, boy. Let me see. I'm gonna play what she said at the end, because this is mind blowing. Hold on.
Really is.
But he's not worth marrying.
But sometimes you don't know that they're not worth it until afterwards. That's what I'm trying to say.
But that is the problem. This is what's wrong with us,
society,
because we're creating this new norm, and that is the new norm. And what I'm trying to tell you, Siobhan, as the older lady, that's not working.
On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
Yeah, so you hear Kayla was like, the young lady was like, "Oh, this is normal." Kayla's like, "That's not normal. Just because we're trying to normalize it, it's not normal." And it's not. And thank God for Kayla. I'm sorry for Courtney for telling her that it's not working.
And that's the main thing, is that it is not working. If you pull up any statistical data, or even just go into a classroom primarily of Black children, you can see that our new quote unquote normal is not working, and it hasn't worked for decades. Somehow we women got it in our head, oh, I got this, I don't need him. I got this. No, we do need him, actually. We do need him.
All right. Miss Angela, what do you think about the clip and the young lady saying that just because she has a baby by a man, that doesn't mean that she doesn't need to marry him? That mindset.
Well, a lot of it's the mindset of a lot of the young people today. It blows my mind. If you think enough of somebody to lay down and open your legs to have that child, but not to marry them, I mean, how much more do you think of yourself?
Yeah, I mean,
but the mindset that we're walking in right. That's just what people are.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that this doesn't happen in any other group of people, but this is with 73% of our women, are single mothers, and 80% of our kids, born without being the product of a marriage. There's something to be said for the state of our Black community, and I don't think we care. Go ahead, Hezekiah.
It's so concerning.
See, for me, being a single man, and I deal with a lot of so-called single women, and they have that mindset that they just want that man there to feel good for the moment, and the rest of the stuff that comes with them, they don't want to deal with because they've been hurt in the past. They've been through some bad relationships. The father of that kid hasn't been doing right. So then most of our men are in jail. So they have learned, and society has taught them to be independent with kids. They would rather have kids than to have a man in the house because the kids give them some kind of entitlement to feel that they have to take care of something. Then by the time they get a man in the house, they feel as if they are the man's father too. Because I mean, I've been in some relationships, and I'm like, she think I am a kid too because she never learned how to grow. Because she had her kids so young, she like, well, if you be quiet and you just don't say nothing, we'll be okay. So I'm thinking.
Yeah, they don't know how to cooperate with a man. I was having a conversation a couple nights ago with one of the nurses, and she was talking to me about the fact that she has a kid, and she was upset because she was requiring something. Well, she wanted the guy that she was with to behave in a manner with her kid and the guy told her, I'm not his father.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have why are you, and he asked her, why are you trying to give me a higher level of responsibility with your child than you do the actual father? I'm not his father. He told the lady, the only thing I have to be with your kid is nice and kind. I don't have to be anything else with your kid. And she was very upset with the man, talking about she's for the dump him, all this, that, and the third, because we a package deal. And I asked her, I said, that was a fair question he asked you. If you don't have any requirement for the father to behave a certain way or to demonstrate certain things, why do you expect your new dude to do what the father doesn't? That's not his kid. He has no obligation to that kid. And I said to her, this is the reason why you guys you were reckless in who you decided to have a child with. Because you decided to have a child with a man that wasn't responsible enough to be able to help you raise and co-parent and lead that child, and now you're expecting some other fellow to do it.
No, they got pillow talk.
Yep, and that's the culture in which that's the standard in which our Black community is built on right now. Our women are having babies with men that they don't deem to be viable husbands or partners, but they'll have the baby. And then they want somebody else to come in to try to fix it. And we're sitting around here trying to figure out why we got problems. Listen, last week, hold on. In the Real Bravado Network, last week we started we started talking about the Patrick Moynihan report. And one of the things that I got out of that, and last week was just an introduction to the Patrick Moynihan report. Today, we're going to deal with, this is the second part of it. We're going to deal with one more part, part 3 at the end. But today we're dealing with the plight of the actual Black family from the Patrick Moynihan report. And I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. Where we are today, we were warned back in 1965. And the other thing that came out of last week's show was like when people were watching it back later and stuff like that, and people who knew me and they were contacting me, no, very few people have ever heard of that report. Very few of us have heard of the Moynihan report. And let me tell you something, it's kind of infuriating as Black people. We know what's going on the latest edition and the latest seasons of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, but we don't know what's going on in our own situation. I find that just appalling at times. And somebody was asking me a bunch of questions about the report, and I got a little bit frustrated with them. And I said to them, I can't do your job for you. Go read the doggone report. I read it. No, it's not a fun read. Yes, it's boring. But what education information is not always, what's banging? Somebody's banging. You know, that education information is not necessarily the most glamorous thing to do. You know, there's this old, like, I don't know if it was a joke or saying, if you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in the book. And once upon a time, we were killed for daring to learn our ABCs and read a newspaper. Now we voluntarily don't do it. Okay, yeah, so I thought that clip was a fair clip to start the show off with today, because it really speaks to the fact that we were warned, and that this young lady's mindset is not just hers, that it's the majority's mindset of a lot of our women. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to get into the Patrick Moynihan report. Okay, the part 2 of the Patrick Moynihan report, then we're going to finish up next week with part 3 of the Patrick Moynihan report. So you guys sit back for a second and I'll be right back with you. Yeah, Fanny, I'm gonna keep you up on the screen with me. All right, in 1965, we were warned. In 1965, a fellow named Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who was an American politician and a sociologist and a member of the Democratic Party, he represented the state of New York from 1977 to 2001, and he served as an advisor to one of our presidents, President Richard Nixon. He released a report back in 1965 called "The Negro Family: The Case for National Action." I want to stress that this report was released back in 1965. And back then, this report was sounding the alarm about what was going on with the Black family in 1965. Most Black people today have no idea, and that was proven after last week's introduction to the Moynihan report, what this report is, what it was about, and what it was trying to warn us about, and the implications if we did nothing about it. We're living in the days of what happened if you did nothing about it. Many civil rights leaders back then, including Martin Luther King, a lot of organizations like the NAACP, the Urban League, Black churches, they all got angry about this report, and they went out and set out on a campaign to bury this report because they thought the mere fact that this report existed would be detrimental to the Black community. But they had no idea what burying this report would actually do. Subsequently, it suffocated the alarm that this report was trying to ring. So I'm gonna be in a second here playing the portion of the report that talks about the plight of the Black family. Okay, and it's written and read in such a way because it was written in 1965, so that their way of talking and speaking and writing back then was a little less direct than today. So I might be interrupting it every now and again to try to explain what the guy is actually saying about things in the report. And then next week we're going to talk about the outcome, what actually happened. In part 3, the last part. The report it's a massive report. I can't go through the entire report, so I'm going to encourage people to look up the Patrick Moynihan report. Okay, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, Moynihan. Moynihan. Go ahead.
Can I say one thing? Also, if you Google it, there are summaries I found through the New York. I believe it was the New York Times. A summary of the report. I mean, if you just don't have time to go through the whole thing, so
yeah, it's worth it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Without further ado, part 2 of the Patrick Moynihan report.
The Negro American family. At the heart of the deterioration of the fabric of Negro society is the deterioration of the Negro family. It is the fundamental source of the weakness of the Negro community at the present time. There is probably no single fact of Negro American life so little understood by whites. The Negro situation is commonly perceived by whites in terms of the visible manifestation of discrimination and poverty, in part because Negro protest is directed against such obstacles, and in part, no doubt, because these are facts which involve the actions and attitudes of the white community as well. It is more difficult, however, for whites to perceive the effect that 3 centuries of exploitation have had on the fabric of Negro society itself. Here, the consequences of the historic injustices done to Negro Americans are silent and hidden from view. But here is where the true injury has occurred. Unless this damage is repaired, all the effort to end discrimination and poverty and injustice will come to little. The role of
Okay, real quick, guys. He said at the beginning of this of his statement, of his read, he said that if we don't deal with and address the issues that led our families to where they were, mean what happened, through the replications of slavery, the issues of the failures of Reconstruction, that it didn't matter how many rights we got, we would fail. That's what he's basically saying. Okay, so I wanted to point that out to everyone.
The family in shaping character and ability is so pervasive as to be easily overlooked. The family is the basic social unit of American life. It is the basic socializing unit. By and large, adult conduct in society is learned as a child. A fundamental insight of psychoanalytic theory, for example, is that the child learns a way of looking at life in his early years through which all later experience is viewed and which profoundly shapes his adult conduct. It may be hazarded that the reason family structure does not loom larger in public discussion of social issues is that people tend to assume that the nature of family life is about the same throughout American society. The mass media and the development of suburbia have created an image of the American family as a highly standardized phenomenon. It is therefore easy to assume that whatever it is that makes for differences among individuals or group of individuals, it is not a different family structure. There is much more truth to this. As with any other nation, Americans are producing a recognizable family system. But that process is not completed by any means. There are still, for example, important differences in family patterns surviving from the age of the great European migration to the United States, and these variations account for notable differences in the progress and assimilation of various ethnic and religious groups. A number of immigrant groups were characterized by unusually strong family bonds. These groups have characteristically progressed more rapidly than others. But there is one truly great discontinuity in family structure in the United States at the present time, that between the white world in general and that of the Negro American. The white family has achieved a high degree of stability and is maintaining that stability. By contrast, the family structure of lower class Negroes is highly unstable, and in many urban centers is approaching complete breakdown. NB, there is considerable evidence that the Negro community is in fact dividing between a stable middle class group that is steadily growing stronger and more successful.
Okay, I don't know if you guys caught that or not, but the man stated that, or the report states that that there is two different sets of blacks. We got a middle class black African American community, and we have a lower class middle black community. But as he'll say later on in the report, that we get lumped in together. I talk about this all the time. I talk about this sometimes with when I'm talking about relationships with ladies. There are two different sets of there are two types of men out here. There are the character productive driven men, and then there's the not. And you can't lump us all together. But he talks about what he's going to talk about shortly from the report about what happens when you lump us all together in the fact that when you do that, it can actually cover up what are the actual problems that we're having. Because when you start factoring in the middle class blacks, which, believe it or not, is not a large number, but because the middle class African American community does so well, it can actually mask how bad the problems are. Okay.
And an increasingly disorganized and disadvantaged lower class group. There are indications, for example, that the middle class Negro family puts a higher premium on family stability and the conserving of family resources than does the white middle class family. The discussion.
Really quickly, the report says that stable middle class black families have a higher level of attachment to family than their white middle class counterparts. So basically, if we can get and push more of us into the middle class as a family unit, we have a higher bonding rate, a higher sense of family and purpose than our white counterparts. I found that interesting when I was reading the report.
Of this paper is not obviously directed to the first group, excepting as it is affected by the experiences of the second, an important exception. There are 2 points to be noted in this context. First, the emergence and increasing visibility of the Negro middle class may beguile the nation into supposing that the circumstances of the remainder of the Negro community are equally preposterous, whereas just the opposite is true at present and is likely to continue so. Second, the lumping of all Negroes together in one statistical measurement very probably conceals the extent of the disorganization among the lower class group. If conditions are improving for one and deteriorating for the other, the resultant statistical averages might show no change. Further, the statistics on the Negro family and most other subjects treated in this paper refer only to a specific point in time. They are a vertical measure of the situation at a given moment. They do not measure the experience of individuals over time. Thus, the average monthly unemployment rate for Negro males for 1964 is recorded as 9%. But during 1964, some 29% of Negro males were unemployed at one time.
Did you hear what he said? 1964, the unemployment rate for black men was only 9%, which flies in the face of everything that we know about black men in the 1960s. And the statistics, the narrative says that in the 1960s, black men weren't employed. That's not, according to the Patrick Moynihan report, that's not true. Now, it does go on to say that in specific periods of time, 29% of black men found themselves unemployed at one point or another. But generally speaking, black men were employed. So why were black men leaving the homes if black men were employed?
Or another. Similarly, for example, if 36% of Negro children are living in broken homes at any specific moment, it is likely that a far higher proportion of Negro children find themselves in that situation at one time or another in their life.
I'm not gonna keep stopping it. 36%, 1965. 36% of black children were from single mother homes. 36%, and they said that was alarming. 36% in 1965, they said that was alarming. What is it today? 80%. If they were worried about 36%, 80% today means that we are an absolute abject failure.
Lives. Nearly a quarter of urban Negro marriages are dissolved. Nearly a quarter of Negro women living in cities who have ever married are divorced, separated, or are living apart from their husbands. The rates are highest in the urban Northeast, where 26% of Negro women ever married are either divorced, separated, or have their husbands absent. On the urban frontier, the proportion of husbands absent is even higher. In New York City in 1960, it was 30.2%, not including divorces. Among every married non-white woman in the nation, the proportion with husbands present declined in every age group over the decade 1950 to 60. Although similar declines occurred among white females, the proportion of white husbands present never dropped below 90%, except for the first and last age group, 9. Nearly 1/4 of Negro births are now illegitimate. Both white and Negro illegitimacy rates have been increasing, although from dramatically different bases.
All right, everyone go ahead and unmute for me.
Okay. All right.
All right, is there an echo?
Yeah, there's an echo.
Oh, hold on a second. Drop that and drop that. Hello? Hold on a second. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Hello?
It's good.
We still have an echo. Okay, we're just gonna deal with it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. 27% of black men were not in the home. And they call that alarming. So what do you guys think?
You have this here. It says we were warned, the Moynihan report, and it's taking me back. and it's taken me far back. First, we started out listening to the young ladies, and they kept repeating over and over again the new norm back in the day in submission. And I said that it's so sad to hear them say this without really knowing where this is coming from. They I think are going back as far as 20 years. This is not the new norm. This is not when we were first born by the Moynihan report, because when you presented this and sent it to me, I looked at another report which I studied while I was in school, and that was some time ago. And I'm going to read something to you, and I want to see if it has any bearing on what we're discussing now. And I'm going to clean it up by changing one of the words. They often say the word nigger, and I don't want to offend anybody by using that word, which it actually means a low down dirty person and not actually an African American person. It just was used back in that time to make us feel bad, but anybody could be a low down dirty person. So anybody of any culture could be a nigger. But what I'm going to read to you, and I'll tell you who wrote it afterwards, it says, we breed two N words, niggers, males with two nigger females. Then we take the nigger males away from them and keep them moving and working. Say one nigger female bears a nigger female and the other bears a nigger male. Both nigger females being without influence of the nigger male image in the home, frozen with an independent psychology, will raise their offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself, independent and negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her, we negotiate her at will. The one with the nigger male offspring, she being frozen with the subconscious fear for his life, will raise him to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong, in other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when those two offsprings become fertile for early reproduction, we will mate and breed them and continue the cycle. That is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning. That was back in 1712, and that was the Willie Lynch letter.
The Willie Lynch
And
letter.
that is something that is 310 years from today. So this is not, we were warned by Moynihan. He just took some excerpts from that, and he cleaned it up some for time. And this is what's happening with these young ladies, because they keep saying the new norm, the new norm. It's not the new norm. It's not, because I thought about what she said, because I've listened to that, and I also read and listened to the Moynihan report, and I also read part of Willie Lynch's letter. But I also got it from somebody who was in many of those generations and saw time has changed from submission to what we call back in the day, which was really her day, and what we are saying now, with what these young ladies are saying now, is the new norm. And I'm not saying she's an expert, but for me, she is. This is my mother I had spoken to about these reports, and she's 97. So that's almost 100 years ago. So I've gotten a lot of what submission was like back then. I got a lot of what is considered the new norm, technology, and everything they mentioned. And I said it's sad that this is as far as they've gotten to be able to understand history. So I don't take it lightly when we discuss issues like this, because it comes close to home that some people thought his letters were a hoax, but it's not. Because we are really still enslaved in a certain way. And it's not just because we're African American, it's also because we're women, and also because you are men. You're enslaved in certain ways. So this report with Moynihan, and I was back in New York during that time. I had an issue with it then, and I have an issue with it now. With him pulling excerpts out and cleaning it up and trying to make it something that he thought about. No, this was something that was way beyond that. And these are the problems that we're still having today. So it is not the new norm. It's just that we're bringing it up in different stages in our life. With the young ladies that was talking, they were talking in different generations and grabbing bits and pieces of what they wanted to talk about. But if you had to actually have a whole conversation and start from a certain era with them, would they be lost? Would they continue to say the new norm? Or would they have a better understanding of the way our history went and what we should be doing to change things?
Here's my opinion. You know, right now, Black Diamond, we have the most information than any other generation about what happened to us. and how we got to where we are. So the question is, what are we doing with it?
All right, how many sit around aunts, uncles, grandparents, and they tell a story over and over again, and sometimes it changes, and we sit there with our face all twisted up like, Granddad told that story a million times, and now he's the one that saved everybody on the boat. Stories change from that history, from back in that time. So we're saying that we know and we have most of the history, but a lot of that is like playing telephone. How much of it is actually actual and factual? I know my mother tells me stories, but by the time she tells it to my kids, she done had 40 kids. It's totally different.
Well, you heard me say during the reading of the report that the narrative for black men from back in that day is that we weren't employed, and that wasn't true. The narrative today is that black men weren't employed, so they got pushed out of the house. That's not true. Even according to this report. Yes. And I said last week, I don't know why it's echoing. Am I echoing really bad over there?
No.
Okay.
Well, on my end, it's
Okay. Hold on a second, Fanny. I said last week, we are the most studied group of people in this country. They know more about us than we do. You know.
We're amazing people, and people are trying to figure out how we survive the things that we survived.
Yeah.
And how we're keeping things going from finances to diseases to everything. Because our parents was in kitchens and making those little things and little remedies and stuff, keeping us going and living so long and whatnot. I'm not saying other cultures don't, but we're amazing people.
Absolutely.
And if they can get a hold of us, and that goes on with I can't even remember her name. She was here in Maryland, and they took her blood and everything. Her name is Harriet. God, I can't think. I'm so sorry. So they studied us for such a long time, and they're still doing this. They can get a family member that's willing to do something. They would do it.
Yeah.
So this is Henrietta Lacks. I am so sorry, and I apologize to the family. But this is what I'm saying. We're amazing people. They've been snatching them from what I'm hearing, and I don't know how true it is, snatching them off the streets and taking them over to a certain hospital and doing things with them. And then the syphilis that came out decades ago.
Yeah.
How they were taking it. So we're amazing people. And again, we're being used as guinea pigs.
Yeah, we're being used.
And some people are doing it for the money, and those are some that are, I don't want to say substance abusers, but people who are at a different point in their life, and they are needing that to be able to survive. So they'll use that, and then they'll say the African American culture.
But the purpose of the Moynihan report, I think, and I love the Willie Lynch tie-in, because there is a definite tie-in. This is, but the report, for me, the part of the report that I care most about is the fact of the matter is that they were starting to see trends. And I know, like Patrick, I hate to like generalize white people, but they like to take credit for everything about us. They like to take credit for our success. They like to take credit for them warning us. It's a little infuriating. So I don't give him credit for outlining what was going on, what was happening. I'm glad that he put together a codified report, because now we're looking at this thing almost 50 years later, looking back and comparing to where we were at then and where we are now, and you can see a you can see a trajectory. And the fact that most of us don't know about this report, and you'd be surprised how the Willie Lynch letter is very popular, but you'd be surprised how many of us don't even know about the Willie Lynch letter. And they've proven that the Willie Lynch letter wasn't that Willie Lynch wasn't an actual person, and that this was more of a collective mindset around slave owners, So this is very interesting. We need to start looking at the history of how we got to where we got to, and we need to stop thinking that because we want something from an individual standpoint, that's good for the collective. And we gotten away from the fact that what I do, what you do as an individual affects us as a collective.
Right. That's right.
I'm gonna give
Absolutely.
Fanny. I'm gonna give you the last word. Then we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say I love that she brought up the Willie Lynch report, because what all I was gonna say was that one of the biggest issues is that we as Black people, we don't realize that we are being played. That they
Horribly,
plant, huh?
horribly played.
Absolutely. If we knew our history, if we knew about the Willie Lynch report, I mean, if we even knew about the Patrick Moynihan report, um, imagine what a difference that could have made to so many Blacks. If they were taught that, let's say in high school, maybe they wouldn't have made some of the choices that they have made. You know, that's where really where it comes from. We don't, yeah, we're being played, and they meant for us to be apart, and yes, we are horribly apart.
Yeah, there's no such. They keep saying the Black family, Black culture. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. A mother and a bunch of kids do not make a family. Sorry. We're going to actually get into more of that, later down the line. Probably when we get to when we start dealing with our image, because we still got to get to his image. We're dealing with this stuff from her image perspective, and I know we spent a tremendous amount of time on her image. We will spend the same amount of time on his image as well, about the choices that our men have made and the choices our women have made before we can even think about addressing what we can do about it. But this is at the beginning of the show, that clip and that mindset, and the fact that mindset is out here, and and right now we have a couple generations of that mindset. That our women, they find it no big deal to give an unfit man a child. It's no big deal. He's not. Oh my God.
It is just.
Why didn't you marry your baby daddy? He toxic, but you gave him a baby. Why didn't you marry your baby daddy? He wasn't ready, but you gave him a baby. And it's like when you bring that to him, it's like, well, it's no big deal. But then when you start looking at when our ladies start talking about the quality of man that is out here. You don't get to talk about the quality of man out here when you've raised these men by yourself with your imprinting on these boys without a man around. And then if you do get a decent guy come around who want to do something with you or build something with you, you want to fight that dude and act like that dude somehow, he should be grateful just to come in to take care of you and yours. I said in one of our streams, our black men are going to our eligible black men are going to have to come in here and do something about this. We're going to have to take on other guys' responsibilities, but that can't happen until our ladies come to an understanding that you're asking them for a favor, these men, instead of acting like you're doing that somehow. You're doing them the favor by just being with them. Our ladies have equated the ability to knock them down in a bedroom and putting it on them as the only thing that we require, because men are very physical beings, and we always trying to get it. Yeah, we're always trying to get it, but we're more than just trying to get it. Especially when it comes down to what's important. Okay, next week, I think it'll be next week Wednesday. Part 3, we're going to wrap up the Patrick Moynihan report, and then right after that, we're going to go into something else, okay? All right, I think this is interesting. I didn't play the whole report. It was on the family, but I'm encouraging people, go read in part, go find a summary of the Patrick Moynihan report, go look at the Willie Lynch letters, look at them in conjunction with one another. Think about what's going on today, and think about what's going on in your family. And more specifically for our ladies, Think about how you are engaging and what you think about when you think about having a man in your life and what that means. Because historically, you're supposed to come find the most productive man and get on his page. Do you have is your mindset is that a man has to come into your world and get on your page? That makes you, that absolutely makes you the man. And we have a lot of our women out here who want to be men. That's why you're out here leading your houses by yourself. And then you're complaining about it, and you're frustrated about it, and you're getting sick about it. But you want to be the man. The man responsibility is to take care of the home. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Till next
TJ,
time.
can I talk to you for a second before we go?
Yeah.
Okay. Just one second.
Now or after?
Just after.
Okay. All right, y'all.